The following is for informational purposes only. For medical advice, please see a medical professional.
Welcome to Staying Alive with Margaret and Susy. Today, the topic that we're covering is alcohol. And we want to talk about alcohol because we'd be remiss if we skipped over alcohol and its effect on healthy aging. And, and yet, we want to be sensitive about this topic because there are a variety of personal opinions on whether any amount of alcohol is safe or not. How do we decide if we're a problem drinker or not? We're not covering those topics. We don't want to give you our personal opinion in this episode. We're not going to even tell you what we do or why we do it because it's a personal and sensitive topic for many. Today we want to present the most current scientific research on alcohol and its effects on our bodies. And we want to present the science to you so that you can make the most informed decision for yourselves based on your personal health and medical concerns. And it's interesting that there's there's new longitudinal research study that's just come out in the last couple years that looked at over 12 million individuals. It was a huge NIH study, and it's being talked about a lot here where I live, UCSF, at Harvard, at Stanford. All of the major influential medical schools are talking about the significance of this new study. And in this new study, what they did was they found in the past that there'd been confounding data that suggested that there was some health promoting behaviors in drinking small amounts of alcohol. And then they were finding that wasn't true. They didn't know why. So they redid the research. And what they found is that in previous studies, they had included in the non drinking cohort many people who had other factors that included maybe they just quit drinking, maybe they had a health issue, maybe their parents had health issues that were highly tied to the morbidity from alcohol. And so there were genetic reasons why non drinkers were getting various diseases at the same rate as people who drank small amounts of alcohol. And so they had to redo that study in a longitudinal large scale to really find out. And so now what we know is that there really is no health promoting amount of alcohol. Um, it's not that it's unsafe, but it's just not health promoting. We now know that from this updated research. And so Susie and I see alcohol, I think you would agree, Susie, similarly to eating sweets or anything else that we might enjoy at this time of year, especially that we know need to be ingested sparingly for optimal health.
Right. Right.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
So when we look at alcohol consumption and we look at our healthy bodies, we've decided today to cover three main areas: how alcohol affects our hormones, how alcohol affects our gut, and how alcohol affects our brain. And so these are the three areas we're going to cover. And Susie's luckily going to cover most of the science in this. She understands it so well. And just starting out, I know that what I know is that alcohol comes from starch, which is fermented, makes the molecule alcohol, has a
hmm
different effect on our bodies than anything else we ingest. And there's something about it, it goes straight to the brain or something. But could
hmm
you explain, Susie,
Sure.
a bit about the metabolism of
You
alcohol?
know, we've talked in the past about carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, um, and we want to make sure that we let people know again that alcohol is not a nutrient. It is alcohol. It's not carbohydrate. It's not fat. It's not protein. There are some carbohydrates in alcohol, especially beer, wine, and mixed drinks, because you add them. But pure alcohol like vodka, whiskey, you know, they are not a nutrient. They're alcohol. So alcohol, like anything that you eat or drink, goes through your digestive system. And the first thing that happens is as soon as you drink alcohol, it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier. And that means that it's absorbed and it goes right to the brain. So they say within 5 to 10 minutes of having a drink, it goes to your brain and you start to feel intoxicated. That's, slurred speech and not, it goes to the prefrontal cortex, which unfortunately is where people have their decision making part of their brain. So that can be a problem. But as alcohol is further digested and it goes through the gut, it goes to the liver. And in the liver, there are some enzymes that break it down and it becomes acetaldehyde. And unfortunately, the acetaldehyde that the liver breaks it down to is toxic and is a known carcinogen. So that is a problem. After that, it goes out through the bloodstream and into other organs, the kidneys, the pancreas, all those other organs in your system, the lungs, the heart. And it can do some damage there as well. So it's important to remember that. Some of it, about 2 to 10% of it, escapes the liver unchanged and ends up in your urine or your sweat, which is why sometimes when people drink, you can smell it on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of it goes to the brain as it backs into the bloodstream from the liver. So those metabolites get to the brain and enhance intoxication as well.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
start with the hormones and then go to the gut
Okay.
and then end with the
Yeah.
brain. And so you mentioned some organs where hormones are produced. And
Yeah.
so tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Well,
Alcohol and
it is a problem
hormonal
because
balance.
alcohol is considered an endocrine disruptor. So that means that it impacts the production of hormones throughout your endocrine system. So, for instance, in the one of the first ones is cortisol. Now, cortisol is that stress hormone that if you're stressed out, you have heightened levels of cortisol. That's not necessarily good, of course. So, when you drink, initially your cortisol levels go down. So many people drink because they're stressed out. I'm stressed, I'll have a drink, I'll feel better. Initially, you do feel better, but then your cortisol levels bounce back. And that can lead to more stress and anxiety. So that's especially, I think, when people are hungover, that can
And
really bounce us back.
that's the more extreme. But let me just say, I once asked a doctor who I was working with, does any amount of alcohol affect, like, what if I'm just drinking one drink a day? And he said, yes, any
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
alcohol affects your hormonal
Yeah,
balance.
I think
Any amount.
the other one is are the blood sugar regulating hormones like insulin and glucagon. And so that could be very dangerous for people, especially for people with diabetes, but also for anybody because you get a drop in blood sugar. And I've heard that is what impacts people's sleep when they've been drinking. Now, I have myself in the past experienced that where if I have a drink, um, I wake up in the middle of the night. And it's because your regulation of your blood sugar with your insulin and glucagon is not stable. So it's especially dangerous again for people with diabetes or even pre-diabetes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And the
keep,
other one, yeah.
go ahead.
No, the other one, the other hormone that is oftentimes disrupted is estrogen and testosterone, which are the sex hormones. Um, but for testosterone, especially, that can impact energy level, mood, fertility, of course. And that's a problem. I mean, even women have some testosterone, right? People think of it as the male hormone, but women also have testosterone. The other one is estrogen, and it disrupts estrogen production, which can be a problem for people who are at risk to breast cancer. In
And
fact, oftentimes,
perimenopause too. Don't forget
right.
that. It
Yes,
increases
when you're
hot
going through
flashes,
PMS,
gout
those
flashes.
hormone regulations are difficult. Let's just put it that way. It's difficult to manage your hormones when you go through menopause. There are a lot of different ways to do it. People do a lot of different things, and some people have an easier time with it than others. But alcohol is certainly not going to help that process. It's also related, that's why alcohol is related to breast cancer because of the hormone disruption. Yeah.
Yeah, we now know that many cancers are related to an imbalance of
Hmm.
hormones. And we're not going to
Yeah.
go into which
Right.
hormones or what. You can talk to your doctor
Yeah.
about that. But
Yeah.
keep
But
all
it's,
this in mind if you have any condition where you've been told hormones play a role, then think about your alcohol
well, I
intake.
mean, there's a lot of different cancers, there's, um,
Mhm.
that are very sad, and anything we can do to help ourselves is always a good idea.
And we just didn't know how much hormones played a role in cancer production until just
Hmm.
the last few years.
Yeah, yeah, it's a new thing really. And it's when you get breast cancer, sometimes people after treatment are encouraged to take hormone blockers. And and that's got challenges in itself for sure. But it helps keep people from having reoccurrences of cancer sometimes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, should we move on to the gut, or is anything else you want to
Sure,
say?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing about alcohol in the gut is I personally suffer from acid reflux, and so I've had firsthand experience with this. Alcohol definitely triggers acid reflux, which is also known as heartburn, but some people don't even have heartburn when they have acid reflux. They don't get that pain, but they have disruptions in their acid production, and it can be uncomfortable, can cause coughing, but it can also cause some pretty serious health problems in your esophagus. So it's something to really take a look at. So it's going to impact all areas of your digestive system, and especially when you think about your gut microbiome.
Yeah, I understand that even one drink of alcohol impacts the microbiome in your gut.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
could you review for us what microbiome is? I know
Microbiomes
we
are
did the
the
gut brain episode.
right. Yeah,
Review
please
that.
check out our gut brain episode because
Yeah.
it was very interesting.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, it's going to impact the production of bacteria because the microbiome are the healthy bacteria that live in our gut. You need healthy impacts of fiber in your diet to set up a good environment for the microbiome to grow. So once you get a healthy gut bacteria going, you don't want to do things that disrupt it. Also, alcohol can cause leaky gut, which causes things to have sort of holes in your gut, which causes all kinds of problems. Yeah. So it's really important to think about what you're doing. Um, I
And
mean, back in the day, I know when my parents were my age and maybe younger, um, it was all about ulcers. When people would get ulcers and then they would have to quit drinking. So you don't hear as much about that, but that's a bacteria related thing. But, um, there are a lot of reasons that
mm,
sometimes people get what's called gout from drinking. Those are all really difficult things to deal with. Yeah.
wow.
And I've even had someone close to us tell us that alcohol ruined his heart. Yeah.
Mm,
So all part of the system.
yeah. And then if you're drinking less to improve what's going on in your gut, there's also the added benefit of a lot of times people lose weight. I don't know if it's just the calories or if it's something also going on in the microbiome. People seem to
Yeah.
lose weight so much easier if they're not really drinking. Skin
I
looks
think I
better,
think
you're
people
hydrated.
yeah, I think people sometimes have pretty unhealthy habits when they're drinking too.
Mm.
I think that we have a tendency to overconsume certain foods when we're drinking. That's my
Oh,
experience.
oh, interesting.
You
And
know,
may and
it's
maybe to drink a little less water too.
Drink less water, and also that there are some types of alcohol that have a lot of carbohydrate added to them. There's the mixers that people put in drinks. Beer has a lot of calories, a lot of carbohydrates. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And I was just thinking, like, I know that the walls of our intestine become more porous as we
That's like
age.
called leaky gut.
And
Yeah.
and and so that's just a normal part of aging, that it becomes more porous, and so in our intestines. So I would think that we're more susceptible to some of these things
Oh,
within our gut as we age. And if we
you're
drink,
more
if we,
susceptible to so many things related to alcohol. My one of my bailiwicks is the risk of falling.
yeah,
We aren't even talking about that really
we'll
today in
talk. We'll
terms of
talk
safety.
about that. Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about that also soon
yeah,
in the
but
exercise episode.
yeah, but
So, should we move on to the brain then?
sure,
Because
yeah,
I
sure.
mean that just this idea that alcohol travels to the brain first and the
Mm-hmm.
blood-brain barrier, it's like that seems like a big deal because as we age, our brains shrink in volume. And the
Mm-hmm.
main thing that affects is our memory, by the way. Like if you notice, oh, my memory's not what it used to be as we're aging, it's because that's the main thing affected in these
Yeah.
shrinking brains we have. Yes, we're just as smart as we ever were, but our brains are shrinking, and unfortunately, alcohol increases the volume loss
Well,
and
also it
uses the
affects
brain.
the neurotransmitters in your brain are affected by alcohol.
Yeah, so tell
So
us about that. Tell us about
that's the
that.
biggest problem is that when it acts as a disruptor of neurotransmitters and some of the hormones that are necessary to have a healthy brain. So when you get um, alcohol, there's alcohol related dementia. That's a type of dementia,
Right.
which happens to people who drink too much.
But that's people
Um,
who drink too much. And today we're just
right,
covering how is it
right,
affecting the brain day to day in those of us who don't necessarily drink too much, but we're
right.
aging and we're drinking and
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it impacts things like GABA and the neurotransmitters, things that and I like to think about the fact that, first of all, your neurotransmitters are mostly produced in your gut. So when you're drinking too much alcohol, when you don't have a healthy gut, the production of your neurotransmitters is way lessened, right? So then you the sort of double indemnity, you get that going, and then the fact that you don't have that you've got alcohol in the brain that's disrupting the neurotransmitters. I mean, to me, it makes such logical sense. I mean, this is why people act goofy when they drink, because it's disrupting the neurotransmitters in your brain. Unfortunately, that to me also um, could lead to things like depression
yeah, when you
because,
mention that, I'm thinking, wow, anybody with mental
mm,
health issues,
yeah,
that's something to think about there.
yeah, for
Mm.
sure, sure,
Mhm.
yeah. So, it disrupts all those good things that are going on in your brain. Let's face it, we need as much as we can get of our brain. We need to keep it going.
We do, we do. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. And then
I,
and alcohol contains byproducts and
yeah,
toxins that need to
yeah,
be excreted and that
yeah.
affects, yeah. Mm,
Yeah, for sure. And those toxins that are produced in the liver, acetaldehyde, they just go right through your bloodstream and they're affecting all the other things.
yeah.
So, that can be really detrimental to the brain.
Yeah. So think about it. Think about how much you're consuming if you want to um cut back or change your relationship to alcohol based on what you know about your family history and
Mhm.
your goals for your health
You're
and
right.
your aging
Right.
body and just
Yeah.
make an informed decision. That's all we're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And talk to your doctor if you think you need help around this. And
There's
I
plenty of
hope
ways to get help. Yeah.
this is helped you make more informed decisions around alcohol. And
Mhm.
that's all I was thinking we would say today. Anything
Yeah,
else you
yeah.
want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think,
Okay.
just
That's,
make good goals for yourself, and this can be one of them to
yeah.
lessen the amount of alcohol.
And
Yeah.
you're going to be hearing this in the new year when it's coming out. So
Yeah.
I hope this helps you with any New Year's resolution you might be having or not. And Happy New Year. And until next time, we are
Staying
staying alive.
alive.
You've been listening to Staying Alive with Margaret and Susy. This show is hosted by Margaret Cooley and Susy Hymas. To subscribe to our show, leave a comment or ask a question, please visit stayingalivewithmargaretandsusy.com. Our podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. If you've enjoyed our program, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening.